Well, welcome everybody, and we're really excited you have joined us as Lori's doing some troubleshooting. We have Julie Poeltler here and Mark Griffith and Ellie LaFever, and of course Lori Wilson, who is our troubleshooter.
It's me. I'm the tech.
And she's our admin. She knows how this whole thing works. So
right,
we'll get started here in a few minutes.
Yes, yeah, got a lot of people coming in.
Great. I know everybody's very busy. We had a lot of people ask if we were recording it because there's so much going on. And as Mark said in the wholesale house, busy, right, Mark?
Yeah, it's very busy. So if we're that busy, we know you all are busy in your shops.
For sure. And Julie stepped into her coffee shop so she could get out of the chaos for a little while so she could present to us.
Okay.
Whenever you give us the word, Lori.
Okay, so yeah, we'll go ahead. Just a few things. If you do have questions or comments throughout this session, feel free to put it in the chat. If you look below at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the word chat with like a little cartoon balloon. You can click on that, chat in there, and whenever Mark and Julie are talking, if there's a pause, I will interject and ask. We always like these to be interactive. A lot of times when we wait till the very end for Q&A, you maybe forgot a question that you had in the middle of it. So feel free to throw that in the chat, and as time permits, I can ask that. At the end, we will have Q&A. If you're having any issues, maybe being able to hear, or if sometimes your screen randomly goes away, it just hides, send me a chat and I can walk you through how to fix it. So with that said, I am going to jump off and let you guys get going.
All right. I'll go back to the screen. So we'll get started here. First off, welcome. We're so glad you've joined us today. You know, it really is a whole new wedding world out there. Over the years, weddings have transitioned with social media. Obviously, Pinterest and the internet have made it a whole new world out there for both the brides and for you and the couples, you know, because in some aspects makes it a little easier for you, but because they know you can actually see exactly what they want, but it makes it really challenging because some of those expectations are not realistic, as we all know. But you have to remember, you're the professional, and it's your responsibility to take those dreams, those pictures, whatever they're showing you, and make it their own perfect wedding celebration. You know, with that shift, especially in COVID, many weddings are returning to somewhat of a normal scene. But you need to be sure and put on your to-do list what are the guidelines for each one of the individual venues. But I know we're going to cover that, and also take into consideration the comfort zones of the guest and the couple themselves. So let's get started with introducing our special guest. I'm joined by two professionals who are really well-versed in wedding and events. We're very lucky to have them with us today, and on both sides of the execution. One has a difficult time really operating without the other. It's a really great partnership. Julie Poeltler is our Flower Clique creative strategic advisor. She's an education specialist. She's an owner of a flower shop, brick and mortar shop in Lone Tree, Iowa, which is in the greater Iowa City area. She knows that it's important to be informed on the trends. And not only that, she really enjoys it and she owns it. And with that comes confidence. And that's what you need when you're working with your brides. She represents all of you because she knows the challenges that come with working with weddings. Mark Griffith has been in the business for over 25 years. So he comes from the retail side, which really helps him in what he does for Bill Doran and for his customers, because he understands what you are going through. He's owned small boutique shops and he's worked at large established flower shops, grocery, mass market, and home studio spaces. So he's seen it all. Mark started 2 businesses from the ground up. He brings all of his knowledge and experience with him to his most recent move here to Wholesale. So thank you, Mark and Julie, for joining us. I know that the good working relationship between the retail and the wholesale really is vital for the success of the business. Today, we're going to cover communication tips with the client and the supplier, trends in colors and products, suitable substitutes, which are always important, and tips for ordering. So, Julie, want to kick it off for us?
Sure. And when you're talking with the brides, you know, through all this that we went through last year, it put Zoom meetings into perspective with a lot of us. Some of us met with people in person with our mask on in a nice location where everybody felt comfortable, or I've also had experienced the Zoom meetings with phone calls, whatever you did with your weddings in the last few years. With this year also, you know, it depends on how everybody's feeling comfortable. Let the client tell you what they wish to do. If they want to feel more comfortable on Zoom, try to figure out a way to make that work for you. And then if it's easier to meet one-on-one, that would be great, or with a gathering of family, whether it's in their home, if that makes them feel comfortable, or a location in your shop. Just make sure that everybody feels very, very comfortable. There's a time and a place when you want to meet. If you're going to a new venue, you may want to take the time to go with your bride. It makes her feel very important if you take that extra step to go with them and see that new venue, because there's so many new places to be married at now. Lots of different places, whether it's wineries or in private homes, you know, small churches. There's just so many different venues. So if you've never been to that venue before, and rather than just say on the seat of your pants, you're going to show up the day of the wedding, there might be some restrictions, some protocol that you might have to attend to before. So always make sure that you're visiting that location with the bride. That makes it feel, you connect, you make really a good connection when you get to meet with them at that location, if it's possible. When you have a consultation and you're meeting with them one-on-one, you know, that first time that you meet with them, you know, everybody's searching around for pricing and that and this and that, and everybody has to just come to an agreement, and everybody in everybody's flower shop come to an agreement. How long is that first consultation going to last? How long is it going to last, and are you going to charge for it? So those are big items that you get to choose. Everybody's different. It's not one works for, if I charge $75 for a consultation and somebody else charges $25, it's whatever everybody feels comfortable in their own little flower shops, okay? So when you're with that consultation, and it's the very first time, and maybe they're just gathering information, where it's going to be, time of the wedding, how many tables, and it's very, very early in the stages. Maybe you may want to just hold it down to just an hour, because that way it's like an interview process. You're interviewing that bride, that bride's interviewing you, and you're seeing that if the two of you can connect and make a cohesive arrangement between the two of you, so you can get along personality wise and in a good working environment, so that you have fun. So it's not such a stressful time. It's fun because you can't wait to do this lady's wedding, because she is fun and you felt really comfortable with her, and she trusts you, you trust her, and it makes a very, very good time enjoying your weddings. Because as we know, as we go through the whole year, we get a little more stressed out. We get a little more like, oh, I can't wait till the last one's happening. And then when I see all these wonderful Facebook posts at the end of the year, this is my last wedding, I just get the biggest charge of the florist. This, because I do it too. It's my last one. So that's always important when you're one-on-one with them and you're in that 1 hour. Then if you have a few in your cooler, just some flowers that you already have, maybe it's their colors, or maybe it's a rose, or maybe it's a carnation. A lot of girls have never talked about or looked at flowers until they come to see you. They've gone to Pinterest and they've got the little story going that what they wish for, but to see them in person, sometimes they're really like astounded that oh, I thought they were going to be bigger than that, or I thought they were going to be smaller than that. So if you have just a few prototypes through that consultation, it's another good connection. And then listen to what they have to say. Make sure that you're hearing everything they say about what day it is, what time it might be, where the location is, the ceremony, and then ask all the questions that you can possibly ask them, because they will ask you also. And make sure that one point that it has happened one time, and you know how when you make a mistake, you never forget it. If you have a mother and a daughter sitting there together, always look at the daughter and direct your question to the daughter, because I directed one time all the questions to the mother, and the email that I received from the bride was that I did not give her the center, and she was very upset with me. That she said, the next time we meet, would you please ask me the questions and not my mother? So, you know,
Wow.
after you listen to what they say, or you learn from your experience. So give your best professional advice. If you feel that it's a color combination that's a little you're not feeling comfortable with, tell them, and then you'll be able to share it with you. I'll share this story with you. It happened about maybe 10 years ago. The bride came to me and she was giving me the color combinations, and I just wasn't getting these pinks and these blues, and it just wasn't making any sense. And I just thought it was just, I could not connect with it. Well, I went to an AIFD program, and there it was right on stage. It was in the trend color, and then it all made sense, and all the flowers made sense. So, you know, just by listening to what they have to say and showing palettes of color, or if they don't have a dress color, ask them to go to the paint store and get just a paint chip. That also helps you choosing a color or a ribbon.
So then a lot of times then you kind of repeat back to them, right, Julie? It's like, what I hear you say is this, and then you challenge them. And that's what you're saying is sometimes it's not a really good color combination, or maybe the style of their bouquet wasn't, you know, maybe she's 10 foot tall and she wants a little roundy moundy, and you're going to tell her it's not going to look good in the pictures.
Yeah. You be honest with them, you know, and explain to them. I mean, there are some beautiful bouquets out there they're showing on Pinterest that, you know, you've got a tiny little, you know, a size 0 young lady, and this huge bouquet is overpowering her. And just sort of bring her down and just say, you know, we can custom make it more to your needs rather than to this picture. So, and she can have some more of those wispies and things like that. But sometimes the bouquet is this, to me, maybe I'm old, but it's an accent to the dress, not to overpower her. That's in my perspective.
Right. And then, of course, then you make a call to your person at Bill Doran. In this case, you'd call Mark and say, hey, is this stuff even available at this time of year?
Absolutely. So like Bronia, perfect example. Is it going to be available June 2nd or June 9th?
Doubtful.
See? So
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is, what is it, Mark? You buy it now and you hold it, correct?
Well, that's always an option if something is a long-lasting flower, or you find suitable substitutes. You know, Brony is a unique item, as are many flowers, but your wholesaler can help you find things that might give a similar look, a similar texture. I think one of the things that occurred to me when we were talking earlier is that a lot of times I think the florist is the one that gets down in the weeds with that this has to look exactly like the picture. You know, when we sell the look to our brides, we don't often get into every single individual detail. They just love the look of it, the colors, the feel, the texture. And so it's our professional job to make that happen in whatever way we can. And sometimes I think as designers, we look at that picture and we're like, oh, it's so pretty just the way it is. I want all the things in that picture. And so we try to order everything that's in that bouquet, whether it's in season or not. And so I think the important thing to remember is to be flexible and to, really be open to substitutions or things that might be in season versus out of season. And obviously if we can get it, we'll get it for you, whether that's bringing it in from Italy or Holland or wherever we can get it. And whatever the cost may be, if you're willing to pay it, we'll get it for you. But it's also just really good to be flexible and be open to some ideas of possible substitutions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the key one there. Mark and Julie, you both talked about it, is if you want that look, but do you want that cost, associated with it? And like peonies at a certain time of year are abundant, but then you look at them, we were talking about that, Julie, right? In the fall, how much more expensive they are. And does the bride know that? And is she willing to make that,
And that's a good question to Mark, because the peony is such a big flower this year and has been for a number of years. Mark, what is the availability of peonies for the fall?
Peonies are another hard one because it's a bush, it grows in nature. It's not something that can really be forced. It has to go through a cold season. And so we're bringing peonies in from different parts of the world. So right now they're coming from Holland.
Sure.
In a few months, they'll be coming from Alaska because it'll be the Alaskan peony season. If you have a local peony source, May is a huge peony season. So it just depends. In the fall, the Alaskans kind of go off crop, and then you start going down into, I believe it's Chile, where they come from South America. So, again, it just depends on what color you need, how much you're willing to pay. Right now, peonies are the highest I've ever seen them, in my 25 years in the industry. And you'd think they'd be inexpensive because they're in season right now, but they're just not, because they're coming from Holland. We're paying a lot for the logistics to get them here. So, that's the crazy part of what's going on in the world right now, is things that we're used to and prices that we're used to are just not happening. And so that's where that flexibility comes into play. And, having that tough conversation with your client. Maybe you did this consultation a year ago and they were sold on peonies, and you priced out this wedding for peonies costing $5 a stem, and now they're $9 a stem. Should you as a florist eat that cost? It's up to you. Is there 100 peonies in the wedding? 100 times $4 is $400. That's a lot of money for a florist to eat the cost on. So, that's going to be a hard conversation for you to have with that client and say, look, I am more than willing to get these into your personal flowers, perhaps, at my cost, because that will do a lot for your relationship with that client to offer that to them, and then say, but I can't cover the expense, on bringing those peonies into the whole wedding. Things have changed, and this is the position we're in the current environment, and try to keep it very positive. You don't want to be like, well, I can't get those peonies, they're $9 a stem, because that's not what that bride wants to hear. They want to hear a solution. And so, offer your professional solution, whatever that might be, whether it's a substitution or how you're going to negotiate that cost difference with them, and just have that conversation. Be open. As soon as you know what you can do or are willing to do, have that tough conversation with the clients for these upcoming weddings, and then just move forward. They'll be mad, they'll be happy, they'll be, whatever they may be, then you can deal with it. But if you don't have that conversation, you don't want to show up on the day of their wedding with some substitution for a peony because you weren't willing to pay the cost. That's just going to make everyone mad. So,
Sure.
And then I think later on there's some different flowers where you're going to show some substitutions, and we can talk more about that when we get to it. But there's always different things that you can do to kind of, offer them these solutions, rather than just go to them and say, peonies are too expensive right now, I can't afford to bring that in for your wedding. They're going to be like, what? Like, this is what we talked about. We talked a year ago. You told me I could get peonies in May. It's the high season. They're going to remember these conversations that you had because
Absolutely.
that's their favorite flower, or their grandmother grew peonies their whole life, or whatever the reason. We've heard them all. And so, just coming back to them and having that open, honest conversation is really going to be the best bet for you.
And how far in advance, when you're locking in a price like that, Mark, with a supplier?
Unfortunately, that's the difficult part on our end as well as your end, is that we can't really guarantee any prices till the week of shipping. I mean, we don't get
Okay.
invoiced for these flowers
Sure.
until, you know, the grower invoices them on the week of shipping. And so all we can do is give you our best estimates for you to provide your clients with an estimate. And we're
Mhm.
recommending that, you know, you increase your cost by whatever percentage you're comfortable with. Maybe it's 20% increase right now.
Sure.
And if the prices come down, as Bill Doran, as you know, this company, we honor those prices when they come down. We're not going to price gouge you. We're not going to keep the peonies at $9 a stem if we're back to only paying $4.95 a stem for them that week. So, you know, the best we can do is give you an educated guess and say, you know, right now, because of logistics, they're coming in at this cost. We anticipate, you know, 1st of June, 1st of July, they're going to be similar cost. But that's really the best we can do. On a lot of products, the way it works normally throughout the year is that we do kind of a price average. So we know that prices fluctuate up and down in the marketplace, but we say that spider mums are $7.95 a bunch because we know that over the course of the year, our average price is going to be $7.95 a bunch. So we pass that average on to you so that you can plan for those things and make your estimates for weddings or funerals or whatever event it might be. Because in the floral business, that's the easiest way to do it. You want to have some expectation of cost, as do your clients. Unfortunately, because of logistic issues right now, we can't do that as well. And I'm sure you all saw that on Mother's Day invoices with whatever wholesaler you might be working with. You know, flights out of South America, weather in South America greatly affected our costs. And so we had to pivot and do things different. You know, than we've ever done in the past.
Right.
So that one of those things is affected pricing.
So if we move off the price thing, can you help with the rose varieties and color subs? I mean, so we know the prices are going to be something that's going to be tough, right, Julie?
Right.
I mean, and you've been
Right.
dealing with that. But like different rose varieties, you know, they call and they want, give me one, Julie, that's the most popular.
Because I'm older in the industry, so I always know all the older names, and they're not called that now. So I'm always looking for a chart or something that I can identify. I mean, like if Quicksand or Mother of the Pearl or Sahara, they're all in that family line in those blushes. But you know, when they, like I said, if it was an older rose, I would be calling it by something else. But if it's those varieties, is there a chart or is there you know, my supplier, Brian, sometimes takes me, like I was ordering carnations the other day, these antique carnations, and he took me to a website and he goes, what do you think? Pick out the one you want. And so that's how we did it. And it was really slick and it was really helpful. And it sort of put the stress level down that I could go to a website. He was on the phone with me and he took the time. It was fabulous.
Yeah,
It's year long.
Yep, many of the farms provide some sort of either website, or a lot of them used to print charts. There used to be, you know, wall charts of Australia varieties and things like that. I think a lot of them quit doing that because they started doing more web-based stuff and they don't have to pay for all that printing.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, your wholesaler should be able to point you to some sort of resource, whether it's a website or send you pictures themselves of different varieties. Unfortunately, the way, you know, there's so many thousands of varieties of flowers, roses included, that there's not one resource to get you all the information you need, but they should be able to say, you know, go to this site for Australia, or this is where we buy our, you know, Dahlias from, or whatever it might be. And then you can kind of see those different colors. Or a good salesperson, you know, a good floral salesperson should be able to say, you know, we can't get Quicksand this week. Here's 3 substitutions for you. You know, something like that. And that is the world we're in right now. And, you know, placing those orders, it's very helpful to us to get a couple substitutions right off the bat, because that way we know what the expectation is. We know we've had that discussion with you. We know that when it comes to place that order with the farm, if they tell us that we don't have Quicksand, right away we know what we can go into for the second choice. We don't have to get back to you and wait for you to get back to your client. You know, there's a lot of time wasted, and then we miss the opportunity to buy those flowers. So.
And then how close, I mean, how far out should we be ordering our flowers before the wedding? So say if the wedding was July 4th.
So I just had a great discussion with a new florist yesterday. She just bought an existing shop and she's not really done flowers before. So I wish her all the luck. But she has lots of questions, which is great. But she asked that same question, and basically the first thing I can point you to is you need to be thinking in terms of ship date, not in terms of wedding date, because people get tripped up on that. So if we tell you that we need the order 2 weeks in advance, that's not 2 weeks in advance of the wedding date. We need the order 2 to 3 weeks in advance of the day you want to receive the flowers, because that's the date we're working off of. That's when we want to ship the flowers to you. So we always say we want it 2 weeks ahead. 3 weeks to 4 weeks is not uncommon now, because that's really going to help guarantee that we kind of get those orders into the farms as soon as possible. And there is somewhat of a system that, you know, first come, first serve. If they sell 3,000 Quicksand roses to a giant florist in California for one of those celebrity weddings, you know, there's not going to be any Quicksands on the market for the rest of us. So the sooner we get those orders in, the better.
Hey, Mark, that's Lori. I'm going to interrupt you guys because we've got great questions come in. So I feel like right now is a good time. One of the first questions is from Melinda, and she is asking, why don't wholesalers lock in the price with the grower when the florist orders the flowers? It would make our job easier.
I think that question is a tiny bit above my pay grade, but basically, you know, the growers, you know, basically there's growers, there's brokers, there's wholesalers, there's retailers. There's so many levels that each one is dictating the price to the next. And so I just don't think they lock in those prices, because it's just like open market.
Right.
It's just like your produce at the grocery store. The bananas fluctuate in price from week to week, or, you know, tomatoes are cheaper when they're in season, type of thing. It's just the way that our capital market works. Those prices just aren't really ever locked in.
Okay.
We lock them in as a wholesaler, over, like I said, over the course of a year, averaging things out sometimes. But those more specialty items or popular items, it's just impossible to really lock those prices in.
Okay, great. So she also has, this is more of just a comment about the Quicksand that you got, Rose. She said Quicksand that is actually blush is almost impossible to find. I've been getting more of a gray look. So
yeah, so that's the other thing that is just, it's tricky. We're dealing with a product that is grown in nature. So when you go to a farm in Colombia or Ecuador where they're growing these roses, you could see a Quicksand rose on one plant that is one color, and a Quicksand rose on the plant, you know, 2 rows down that's a different color. It's all affected by the soil, the sunlight that plant is getting, the time of year. So that's not something, unfortunately, that we can guarantee either. Those are all Quicksand roses, but each farm might be slightly different in shade because of the weather or the climate.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Julie, this question I think is going to be more for you. And this is from Elizabeth Austin. And she says, hi, we are reworking our wedding section. Do you think providing a few packages is more beneficial than customizing a wedding from scratch? We're unsure how to adjust going forward.
Well, sure, you could sell packages with no problem, but you're going to deal with a certain, you can put that on your website, most definitely, doing a package. I mean, when you're buying your bunches, like the Flower Clique bunches, you can probably make one whole, and that's what Vonda and Ellie are developing right now, is you're going to be able to take those bunches and make your own little wedding out of those bunches you receive from Flower Clique.
Right.
So they're in that stage right now, but there is a market for that. And if you go to some of your big box stores, you'll see that market is there. So you're going to, when you sell packages like that, you will be, that's wonderful, because you are grabbing hold of a unique set of women that want to have that happen.
Right. No, I think
so, yes,
you're right.
I always found the package thing hard, Julie, because each wedding is so unique in the quantities. So you have different numbers of bridesmaids, different numbers of boutonnieres, different numbers of centerpieces. So you'd really have to have like a base package and then some way to do add-ons, something like that.
Yeah,
but I think it could be
go ahead.
Oh, I think it could be a great way to sell, and kind of, especially for maybe the lower budget brides.
Yes.
It's a great tool to help those clients.
But if you're wanting to target that market, you're only going to get a certain group. You're not going to ever elevate yourself to the next set of women that might come in there, or the next 2 levels of women that want to come in there, and you want to do a fantasy wedding. They may never even come to your door because you're selling just those pre-packages only. So make sure that you're, not only doing that, but you're also advancing yourself into other areas.
Yeah, it kind of comes with almost like a stigma of being a discount florist, the package idea, depending on how you present it.
Yeah. But there is a market there. That
there
really is. And then, there are those elopement packages, that a lot of them went through last year, that we were supposed to have everybody get married, and they sort of either got married or they pushed it to this year. And so you did have a few people that did get married. All my brides got married last year, and they did either, just as a piece, or they eloped and they went somewhere, but they all had bouquets. They all had that small little boutonniere, a couple mom's corsages. So that was quite fun, because we did weddings last year, only they were tiny and they were sort of fun to do. And we really appreciated them because we spent a lot more time on them, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, just a few more, then we'll keep moving. Judy Herbert just wanted to make the comment that she often goes to the farm website directly to look at the colors and the varieties. And then Antoinette is asking, this is a wholesale question. She said, I've been ordering at least a month ahead, but I feel that my wholesaler does not put the order in until the week before. Then I get an email that the grower denied my order. Why is this happening?
Yeah, and I've seen that happen as well. And I think, again, because I'm not the buyer, I don't know the whole process, but I do know that certain things go into the farms as soon as your order is placed. Other things, because of, at least at Bill Doran, we're a large wholesaler, so we have our own buying team down in Miami, that's serving as a broker basically for our company. Instead of going through a middle, a separate broker, we're kind of brokering our own flowers. And so these orders get placed with them when they come in, and then they're brokering those deals and purchases with the farms. So it's all taking place in real time. It just depends on which product and how that goes. I think as the Bill Doran Company, we're going to that farm, months in advance and telling them that we want 6,000 Quicksand roses. And then the week of your order, we're sending that to Miami, to our people in Miami, and saying that we want 50 of those 6,000 that our company bought. So we are buying the flowers ahead of time quite often. It's just the way it appears to you is maybe a little different, but there's kind of an internal back process that you don't really know about. So it's kind of confusing, but it is frustrating, and there's still things that happen last minute, whether the farm can't fill an order or product gets shipped on wrong trucks. I mean, there's just so many things that can happen. And obviously we do our best to get you everything you need. And, we always try to fill every order we can, but because it's a live product and because there's a lot of steps between the farm and you, things do just happen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Isla just made the comment when you guys were talking about the flowers the brides want in certain shades, that she tells her brides that flowers are like people. They are all different. So I love that. I love it. Okay. Proceed. That's a good stopping point.
Great. Thank you, Lori. So then, Julie, I'm going to go back to you. And so now then the bride comes in, and after you've given her the estimate, then you kind of need to tell her these 3 things, right? What you're going to do for her.
What you're going to do for her, and why you do it better than anyone else. And it's maybe the way you sell it to her, maybe the way that you guys are connecting, and you're ask some very special questions, like ask her to see her dress, ask her how she was engaged, ask her questions that are very personal, because those brides want to tell you how she was approached by her fiance, how he asked her to get married, and they want you to see her dress. They want you to see their girls' dresses. So be so personal to ask wonderful questions like that. And then then you need to know, the last thing is make sure that you need to know by a certain date if she's going to go with you or not. I mean, She may say, well, I'm going to be thinking about it, and that's okay. And just say, well, you know what? This estimate only lasts maybe 24 hours, maybe 2 weeks, however, whatever your policy is. But make sure that you target that date of when she needs to let you know that you are going to do her wedding.
Yep, exactly. Great point. So important. So let's move on to wedding trends, and we'll kind of go through this fairly quick, I'm sure, because, well, this part for sure. I wanted to do this for shout out. Julie sent me some great pictures off social media, because that's where there's a lot of things out there that the brides are looking for. So you said, Julie, and that's what they're bringing to you besides the Pinterest boards. So these are shout outs, some great people to follow on Instagram. We found that these were really good people to follow. So we want to give them a little shout out.
And also, if the brides are following you because maybe you're a referral, somebody gave them your name, and so that bride is sneaking around on Facebook looking at your posts, and she's looking at the weddings you're going to be doing, and it's really amazing. Pretty soon you'll see somebody that you don't even know that commented, and it's like, wow, I don't know who this is, and then all of a sudden 2 days later you get a phone call. So they're watching you too. So make sure that you're putting on some pretty fun stuff with your weddings and how excited you are about doing weddings.
Exactly.
Don't do a negative. Always do a positive.
Right. So these were some trends that we were seeing, and I think we've all talked about these, is the weekday weddings. The venues only have so much space. So instead of having a weekend wedding, now we're doing what? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday weddings, whatever the day could be. You having quite a few of those, Julie?
Yeah, you've got a nice selection of words there, and yeah, I've got one of everything in there. That's fun.
Okay. Yeah, the backyards, assigned seating. They do the pod seating still, and domestic destinations, which I thought was really interesting. Places that you could either take a train or a car to instead of having to get on a plane. That was making some difference in some of the things that I was checking on. Also, individualized foods, because there are not as many buffets because of the safety reasons. I think all that's going to be shifting, as we know. And then I thought they were adorable little mini wedding cakes and things. So these were just some things that we were seeing coming forth. And then these you were just really talking a lot about, and these are so beautiful.
Yeah, I just think that the setting is very important. There's always going to be a backdrop. And if there isn't, this is your time to sell a backdrop. And somebody wants to get married up against a tree, that's wonderful. But if you add a structure in front of it, very simple, it doesn't have to be anything messy or huge or anything, but sell the backdrop. You'll have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. It's any kind of enhancements that you have.
Absolutely.
This backdrop was really cool. I think Miss Ellie must have added this, but this is the kind of thing. You did one of these on the river too one time, where you had all the carnations coming down, and it was just, and that was pre-COVID, but that was just, you were way ahead of your time on that one. That was gorgeous.
Well, but also the disconnection on the right hand of the screen, the two disconnection of the pole, very popular, where it doesn't have a true arch, so the disconnection, those are also very fun. But it serves you well just to do some backdrop of some kind with all those beautiful settings that they have.
And then we'll move through some wedding colors that we're seeing as being real trendy.
Yeah, and we may not have hit all the marks, but you may add one if you're seeing something out there. I'm anxious to see it. So please let us know. But the teal and rust, I have on the right hand of the screen, I'll have that wedding this fall in October. Lots of browns, lots of Charlie Brown Cymbidium orchids and dahlias and orange ranunculus. And there's what the ladies have put for your flower choices that you might be seeing. Lots of textures. And here comes those beautiful peonies.
There they are, the peonies and all the different textures in the foliage.
Garden roses, protea. Scabiosa. Mark, are you seeing that too in the weddings?
Trend is still hanging on with the burgundy and the blush.
Uh-huh.
And this is the one that we noticed in that bouquet back there, the olive branches. We were seeing the olive branches. I see that in quite a bit of things. Are you getting a lot of requests for that, Mark?
Yep, olive branches are still hot. They're still part of that kind of eucalyptus color trend. So they're still in
Sure.
that color family. They also have that great two-tone quality where they're kind of the sagey green on one side and that silver underside of the leaf.
Sure.
So it just provides a lot of interest to the bouquets.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of different foliages. Are you seeing, Mark, a combination?
Oh yeah, people love the
Mhm.
foliage still, either for runners or just included in the bouquets, but it's kind of all over. I mean, the eucalyptus is still crazy popular. The week before Mother's Day, we basically couldn't hardly get enough eucalyptus to cover all the orders. And I even heard my boss say, "Did you ever think in the 40 years she's been doing this that we'd ever sell out of eucalyptus?" But it's Pinterest. I mean, it's taken over, and so these girls, unfortunately, I keep saying the word unfortunately, I don't mean to sound so negative. They just use that as a resource, and because the same pictures appear over and over, they kind of stick within these small boxes of trends versus kind of opening up to something more unique. And so until we as the designers put something different out there, they're going to stick to what they see and like. And so right now the eucalyptus is what they're seeing. So
absolutely. I'm seeing that Italian ruscus is really sort of launching in a little bit more and more of that dark green. They're
the dark green mixed with the eucalyptus, or it's leaning a little bit more towards the green. I think hopefully we're getting away from some of the eucalyptus, but I think in the Midwest, Julie, I'm sure you can attest to the fact that we're always a little bit behind too.
Oh, sure.
The trends, it takes a little longer for the latest
Yes.
trends to make its way to the brides here. So, but
Absolutely.
as designers, we can also push that too. If we're trendsetters in our fields, then we can show that we can do these trendy new things.
And I always sell. I tell the bride right out. I always sell her everything I like. There'll be a flower. They'll say, "What about this flower?" Like Scabiosa. I'm gonna be honest. It's not my favorite because it just is so hard. And I'm like, oh. I said, "No, I really don't like it. But if you want it, I'll give you anything you want." But I'll always tell her. I always sell you everything I like.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Mark,
you're going to get a better bouquet that way. If you're passionate about what you're creating, the final product is going to be way more beautiful than if you're forced to do something that's not in your wheelhouse.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and Mark, I think one thing about when you said the trends, they started the West and the East Coast and move in. I think that used to be more so than it is now because of, Pinterest and the internet, because
That's
now
true.
they're seeing what's out there. And it did used to take us, 2 to 3 years to get to us. And now there's a little bit of a gap, but not as much as we used to see, because it's like, oh, well, they have it in California. I want it. It's not as much of a lapse of time. But we're still seeing Pampas. This was a beautiful summer wedding. First Florist, shout out to them. It had the tropicals, which you were mentioning too, Julie, that anthurium. You were seeing a lot of anthurium with the peonies.
Just coming into play just a little bit.
Yeah, the painted anthuriums too. And I know on the call the other day, Julie had a call with the Bill Doran Company the other day. We're seeing that trend online. I haven't had anyone doing or asking for it yet, but definitely some of the bigger trend-setting florists are doing the tinted and painted and really super cool anthuriums. It's an amazing look.
It is. And Vonda just had one. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and that's the muted pastels with all the textures. That's what you were talking about, Julie, just all the textures that were out there.
Yeah, and that blue orangium. Oh my goodness, I think that's just hot. It's always seems like I have it in every other week this year coming up.
And this painted plumosa that are in those pictures, Vonda, if you can go back one slide. So this picture on the left that has the lavender plumosa, that is a huge trend right now. And if you're not familiar with that product, you do not have to be painting all that plumosa. This is a fresh product from Fern Trust out of Miami, and they will paint all that product for you in about 20 different colors. So it's just a wonderful product. They do the, it's called Color Fresh, and they do the painted plumosa, they do tree fern, salal, several different foliage types are available in that tinted painted color. So, you know, it goes with every color palette. It's great product. You pay a little bit more than if it was just regular green foliage, but it's well worth not having to paint it yourself. So,
Right.
Oh, good
Yeah,
point. Thank you.
Good point. And Julie, here's your Italian ruscus in this bouquet.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
and Julie, that bouquet speaks to, sorry, I keep cutting in. That
you're
bouquet
fine.
speaks to a comment you had earlier about that you think the bouquet should be, you know, an accent to the dress. But this is a trend that we're seeing. It's been around for a couple of years, but that oversized bouquet trend.
Wow.
And you'll notice her dress is fairly simple compared to some.
Mhm.
So, you know, in her case, she really wanted that bouquet to be a star in the wedding. And so she has that oversized bouquet.
Yep.
But
Good
what-
point for sure.
Mhm.
There's more of those, still the same, bringing in some of the bleached materials in that. And this is another beautiful one. You have this one this fall too, don't you, Julie?
Yes, yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I love the
all that
Banksia
stuff.
Protea. Those are gorgeous.
Mhm. Isn't that beautiful?
With the peach color stock. Yes, just nice combo.
That little sneaking of that dahlia in there.
Mhm.
Hey, Mark, real quick, Anna is asking the tinted ones that you were referring to, do they still need to be processed in the same way?
Yeah, it's still live product. So they've taken live greenery and just painted it. Now you will notice that with a lot of the painted product, it doesn't, it kind of lasts longer because the paint has kind of sealed it. One of the greatest parts about painted plumosa is that it doesn't shed. I mean, you still get a little bit of shedding when you first get it, but the paint has kind of sealed it so that it doesn't shed like fresh green plumosa does. But yeah, you still want to process it or keep it in water or in a box, you know, in your cooler, however you would normally keep that foliage. Good
Okay.
question.
Thanks.
And then the dried and the bleached continues to be strong.
This is huge. I know Julie can speak to that too, but from a wholesale perspective, it's so huge that we can't source enough of this product. So my number one recommendation to you is buy it when you see it. I don't care if your wedding is in 6 months or a year, buy it now.
Right.
A lot of this product is coming out of Italy. And so just because of limited production of companies that are even making this or have this available, it is a very limited supply right now. So grab it when you see it.
Mark, that is the question that people are asking. Where is a good, reasonably priced place to get it?
Well, again, supply and demand dictates price. So right now, because it's so hot, the price is pretty high.
Now,
But
Mark,
for example, we have the bunny tails right now. We have this Italian bleached ruscus. We have the fan palm. So, you know, check with your local wholesaler. If they don't have it, ask if they can get it for you. We can ship anywhere in the country. So if you want to call, Bill Doran across the country, several of us would be able to get that product for you.
and Mark, this was your Holland box, the ones with the pink colors. That was your Holland box you offered maybe was it fall?
Last fall, yeah.
Last summer? Yeah, and that's your Holland box that I put in there.
Yeah, so we had some mixed boxes available last fall with different
Wonderful.
product, and
Man, that's a great box.
And you created something pretty cool with it. This ring here, right, Julie? That's one
Oh,
that you
yes.
created. That's for your wedding you have coming up.
July, my July wedding. Mhm. The bridesmaids are all carrying rings.
yeah, that's definitely a trend as well.
Mhm.
And you can see all the dried materials in here, the painted dried as well as the natural. It's just kind of all over the place, really.
And the beautiful thing about that, I know Julie talked about it the other day, is that she was able to do all this work ahead of time, and then come wedding time, she's just gonna kind of glue in a few fresh pops of roses and things, just to liven it up a bit. But how great of a trend is that, where we can do our weddings ahead of time?
Yes. I've only got one done. I need to do 7, but
Ah.
one's done.
Well, you have till July. You got a little time.
True florist, always procrastinating even when she can't do it ahead of time.
But she's coming in a couple weeks, so I'll have a few more to get done.
So the wedding flowers are, we kind of compiled a little bit of a list here, but it's all about, as Julie and Mark have been saying, it's about textures, right? It's about whether it's the dried or not, but they're just using all different types of textures. They're loving that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Martha Stewart round all rose bouquet. It's each bouquet might have 20 different flowers in it. That just seems to be the trend right now. So
yeah. So this is just kind of a list of all the peonies and the eucalyptus and some styles of bouquets that we have in those. And then this is kind of fun, the substitutions. This was a beautiful website that I stumbled upon, and this would be one probably, Mark, you guys could refer somebody to, because the Rio Roses just had all these colors, and you clicked on one of those colors and it opened up and it showed you what the rose was and talked a little bit about it. But I think that would help you as a wholesaler if they say, well, on the Rio site, I see this one and I like this color. That would give you identification to get something similar. Would
yeah,
it
for
not?
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's a company we buy from. So yeah, all those resources are out there and we can pass those on to you.
Yeah, it's great. And then of course, if not, Design Master does have a beautiful array of colors that you can take something and blush it up. Julie and I were talking about ranunculus, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And sometimes that one picture you had a tip of the ranunculus had a purple on it. Maybe we'll come to that again. That you just said you would just take, if you can't get it, you just take that little bit of paint and the Just for Flowers and tip it up.
And I
Here it
know
is, right
exactly
here.
which ranunculus, and it's only available in the springtime. So
It's
they're
that
going to
right
bring you this picture in the fall, and you're not going to be able to get that ranunculus. So
But we can paint it, can't we, Mark?
we can paint it.
Best
And
thing to do is always
We
get
can
white.
color enhance it.
Exactly.
And Julie, share with them how you do the touching up of color of that. I know you shared it on our call the other day, but
Each way is different. Each flower is different, but sometimes I just put on a plastic glove and like a disposable glove, and I just put the flower in my hand, and then your hand's protected. So you just sort of very short spurts of paint. Sometimes I'll pool the paint into a plastic and take like a Q-tip or a Kleenex and then just rub the top of it. It all depends. You might want to play with a carnation or something that you can sell in another bouquet if you're going to do like a unicorn bouquet, just to get comfortable in painting. Just don't start out real, just gently do it a little bit at a time. And if it's not enough, just take a little more, pool the paint into a plastic, and then take your Kleenex or Q-tip and just sort of brush it on. A plastic bag, if you take your plastic glove, you can do it that way. Another way with a carnation, I just slide the ring from the stem wrap, and then I just slide the flower down there and I push the flower in, and then I just touch the top with the carnation. So if you want to do it that way. So there's several ways of just gently do it until you get the look you're wanting.
it's great. And this was a great hack for the Lysianthus of the anemone. In case Mark can't get you the anemone, the white anemone, you can do this with painting that thistle in the black, taking off those little edges and popping it in the center.
Absolutely. And that's I've done that before, and it's really fun to do.
And
With
then
the paint, before we move on, I just want to mention with the paint, and I'm sure most of you are experienced florists and you know this, but you really can layer those colors, especially with the Just for Flowers. So you might need 3 different cans of paint to get the color you're trying to match in one of these pictures. And so, the people at Bill Doran or at your wholesaler can help you with that too. Design Master also put out a chart about a year ago that I picked up at AIFD. And it's an awesome resource that says, if you start with this color flower and you want to end here, these are the 3 colors you need to layer on top of your flower. So it's a really awesome resource that you should be able to find from your wholesaler, or someone can find it for you from the Design Master company.
And if anybody ever wants help, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. So an email or a phone call, I'm happy to help you. Because I love to paint.
Yeah, you do, and you're really good at it too. And this is one of your favorites, because
this is my favorite.
I had never heard of anybody finding a replacement for Dahlia. It's probably been 5 years ago, right, Julie, that we were working, and you're like, were so frustrated because you couldn't get this white dahlia. And then you just got these in and I was like, oh my gosh, you know, who would have thought? And now there's really some new varieties that, I mean, look at Tally Ho. I'm
Just
like,
love
my
'em.
gosh, that looks like a dahlia, right?
I just love them. I think the mum balls are just, they're so close. And Mark, am I wrong?
Nope, these are perfect. And I actually, after our call the other day, I thought of one more because I had a conversation with the florist. Gur palms could be added to this list as
Oh.
well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
going to be more like the ball-shaped dahlias, not your big cafe au laits, but
Yeah.
because that was a customer was actually asking for zinnias, and so that was what got me thinking about the gur palms. Gur palms are a great sub for several things. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And really, when you look at the petals, if you put the dahlia against the cremone, really they're, unless the bride doesn't know, they know that it's white or they know that it's, you know, purple, but they don't know the petal, they don't know the difference of the flower because they're so close together on their petals.
and that was kind of my comment earlier, is that sometimes we're the ones that really get so frustrated because we want that dahlia in that bouquet. But if you get them this look and the overall style, I mean, they're going to be thinking about so many other things on their wedding day. They are going to be so happy with that beautiful bouquet that's fresh and well designed and professionally put together. They're not going to be down on the fact that you didn't get this one cafe au lait dahlia. They're just not. I think we're putting that pressure on ourselves more than we need to be.
Well, and I think cost wise too, you know, if you go
Yeah.
to the bride and say, you know, I can do it for this dahlia and it's going to be this much, or I can replace it with this, which looks really similar, you know, and it's half as much. A lot of them will go, oh, I just like that look. So it's like you're
Yeah.
saying, Mark, we beat
Yeah,
ourselves up.
it's about as ninth as much of cost instead of half. So
And if you're honest with them, they're in tune to it. When they feel the trust, that once you can give that connection and they trust you, then that's when you know you can say, listen, I can't get this dahlia. This is what we have to do. And you show, and maybe it's going to have to take something to bring the product in for them to see. But if that's what it takes, you can sell 10 stems of cremone mums. You can, to just show them that it's really, really close. And they'll, as long as you're honest, I think that's half the ballgame.
and there's
Yeah.
different ways to handle this, right, Julie? I mean, this can be something that's as early on as the first consultation about
Absolutely.
what you're able to substitute or how your contract is written. I mean, it's not like you're going to constantly sub all these flowers that you talked about, but you know, every client's different, but you might get the get-go from day one that says, you know, I trust you to sub in whatever you need to give me this look.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got some comments and questions real quick while y'all are on this page. One person says, I always have a hard time getting these from suppliers. They claim they do not know what they are called. Are they disc bud, mum ball, and why are they hard to get?
So the mum balls are ball disc buds is how we get them in, or how the boxes are labeled. They're called ball disc buds. And I just had this conversation with the customer today. Again, just some education on the word disc bud. A disc bud simply means that a flower has been trimmed from all the side shoots so that it grows to be one flower on a stem. So basically they're trimming off all the side shoots in order to send all the energy to that one flower. So the word disc bud doesn't really dictate what flower it is. A disc bud could be a cremone, a spider mum, a disc bud ball. That's just kind of education to help you order, because today someone tried to order, you know, a cream disc bud, and it's like, well, that doesn't really tell me what flower they want. So, you know, words are important, and I'm kind of a stickler for ordering because when I was a designer, I found it super helpful to know the names and exact varieties, because I knew then if I ordered that variety, that's what I was going to get. And so as part of our, you know, ongoing education as florists, it's important for us to learn these things and educate ourselves so that we can elevate our profession above the next designer. So that's just a little piece of information for you as to a disc bud. So cremones are disc buds, spider mums are disc buds, all those things. But in answer to the question, if you said ball disc buds, you know, chrysanthemum ball disc buds, your wholesaler should know what that product is. And you can see right here that comes from the Queen's flowers. that's one of our biggest suppliers here at the Bill Doran Company for mums and carnations and things. So, you know, that's a big company. They should be able to access product from that company.
Okay. Michael Russo says a couple things. He says it's our responsibility to educate our client about the seasonality and the selection of flowers and the flower substitutes. So what you and Julie were saying, that should be an upfront conversation. He also says, I'm a flower farmer and I disbud every peony early on to get it long stemmed, large single blooms. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, peonies are the same way. To get that giant head, they're trimming off all those side shoots to send all that energy up to that one flower.
Yeah. Annie says that I'm probably not pronouncing this correctly. So what is it, Vonda?
Gerondos.
Gerondo daisies work great also. Yeah.
Like those, yeah, for the Gerber, they're the Gerondos.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
forget about those too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Julie and I then talked about trying to get the word out about what you're doing. And she was saying social media, how your website makes a difference. So I asked Kelly to jump on here a minute and talk a little bit about the website and the development and how that all plays into getting orders from the company, and a little bit about Flower Clique and how we do that.
Yeah, so Julie is a big proponent of this, but having a separate wedding site, especially if you are a retail florist, maybe you're not just weddings and events, but to have a really beautiful portfolio site, it's beneficial for a few reasons. SEO, obviously, so the more keywords that you have, the more that people are searching flowers in your town, you're going to populate in Google much higher. And it really just gives you that professional edge that maybe if somebody goes to your regular website, you know, they're kind of missing out. It bridges the gap, because if you don't, especially if you don't have a huge Instagram following, or you don't post all of your wedding stuff on Instagram, or maybe you want to grow your wedding business, just having like a separate site is really powerful. So that's just what we do at Flower Clique. We give all of our members, it's included in the membership, is this separate wedding site. And it has a gallery with bouquet inspiration, with ceremony and reception, so that you can kind of be on the same page as your bride. Another really good benefit of it is that if you have a Pinterest account for your business, you can pin each one of these images from your wedding site to your Pinterest, so that you're populating in people's search feeds when they're searching for certain bouquets or colors. And that also just increases your SEO and your exposure. And then the next slide, we also include kind of this interactive consultation form. So when you hit the request a consultation button, you'll see this very friendly form that's not a million questions in your face at once. It's really taking it little step by step, and it's worded in a way that is more friendly and humanized. So that's going to lead to a greater increase in conversion to actually get those consultations, because when the bride sees this 20 question thing that they have to fill out, you know, your mind automatically gets overwhelmed, and then they'll put it off, or they'll find somebody else. So just having a very simple, straight to the point consultation form really helps bridge that gap. And this is just another style of gallery that we offer. We have two different ones. And then we had a question, is this a generic website or is this a setup? So these are our two sites that I've designed. And we offer it as part of our membership for Flower Clique. It's kind of an added benefit, but our sites are very personalized. So it's personalized with your logo, it's personalized with your SEO, your details, your photos, you know, your business information. But you know, you could easily hire somebody to do this, or you could use something like Squarespace, or whatever the case is. It's just, I think we just wanted to highlight that it's important to have kind of, if you are trying to grow your wedding business or really show it off, this is the way to do it.
And not necessarily a shoppable site. It just needs to be a lookbook, right, Ellie?
Right.
Something
Yeah,
that-
yeah. It doesn't have to be yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be anything with an add to cart e-commerce. It's an inspiration gallery. And then just that main point of conversion would be a consultation form.
Okay, we have real quick, just one comment and one question. Michael Russo just made the comment earlier and I somehow missed it. He said, just remember, it's not always brides that are coming in. Let's not forget same gender gentlemen that are also planning the nuptials. So Michael, duly noted. I wanted to point that out.
That's why I was trying to refer to couples instead of.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's Anna ask a good question. Vonda, this might be a question for you. She says, I don't know if this is part of the topic we will do today, but is it still worth anything to advertise with bridal shops? Does anybody do that?
Julie?
I
Bridal
don't,
shops?
I never have.
Mhm.
Maybe some people do, but I'm sort of in a remote location, so I really don't have anybody really close to me. But I
Depends on
do
what the
not.
relationship is too, I would say.
Yeah.
You just need to look at that and say, what are you giving? What are you getting?
Right.
I think some-
I do see that some of the wedding planners, the planners do have their own people that they do work with a lot. I do see that a lot. That if you're with a wedding planner and you have the bakery people and the catering, sometimes that's all one package when you have the florist involved in that way. So I see that a lot. I'm seeing that a lot in my area. If you have a bridal planner, she uses the same people at every event that they're going to. I do see that, but not, I've never been at a bridal shop.
Okay, thank you. And then we have one more question, comes from Noreen Gorka, our friend. And she says, what was the hack with the carnations? What was it that you all were doing with the carnation? What was a carnation hack you talked about?
Oh, I think just about spray painting, or tipping a carnation or a ranunculus with spray paint to get that kind of bicolor look.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's when you use the ring from your tape, from your
Tape
floral
dispenser.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Julie, you can explain it more or I can, but basically you're pushing that ring up on the petals so that they gather together tighter. So when you dip it in paint, you're just touching the tips of those petals.
Yep.
Or
Or if you're spraying it, you're spraying over the top of the petals.
yeah.
And then once you release that ring, then you sort of brush it out, and then that paint will just be just a hint on each petal at the top.
If you
The
left
heavier you paint it, the more paint you're going to get, the color
great.
enhancement.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. I think there was a lot of good questions.
Just one more thing, since we're talking about that.
Yeah.
And Mark, you can attest to this, but the same thing goes with hydrangea. If you don't have a purple hydrangea, if you want an antique color for fall, you've got green hydrangeas, you got blue, and you got a few cans of paint, and you can create that. If you need pink hydrangeas, again, Mark, you can take a white carnation and several layers of paint will enhance that to the color. So hydrangea is another one that if you buy a whole box of white hydrangea from Bill Doran, you can create lots of colors.
The other thing on the hydrangeas, Julie, that I kind of forget about is, you can actually order tinted hydrangeas. So South American hydrangeas can be tinted at the farm level, and a lot of them look very realistic. I mean, the blush ones that are tinted, you would never know that it was a tinted blush pink hydrangea.
That's good
so
to
that's
know. I didn't know
another
that.
tool to add to your toolbox as well.
Good to know.
Yeah, good to know. So that
They're
is
way less expensive. Sorry, I cut in again.
No, you're okay.
But I mean, I think that's the best part about those is that they're way less expensive than buying like a pink Dutch hydrangea or something. So if you have a normal price average budget wedding, and you can't afford $15 a stem hydrangeas, but you can get a $6 or $6.50, or wholesale only $2 or $3 wholesale pink South American hydrangea. That's a huge price difference. So
Sure. And you can make a lot of money because that paint enhancement it's becomes a designer
Yeah.
flower.
Designer flowers, right?
It becomes now a new designer. It's the new thing.
Any closing words, Lori? Or any?
I think
Something else?
if my question or my comment would be for you guys, any of you that had thoughts going through your head, or maybe you didn't have a chance to put it in the chat, or you have an afterthought, shoot me an email. If you have a hack that you love, that you always do for flowers, send it to me, because I think everybody else would like to know.
No, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, for sure.
And
So-
the replay will be going out here. So, you know, if you guys want to come back to this and refer to something, especially those flower lists, to take screenshots, you guys will all be getting the recording, and it'll be on YouTube.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Julie, for sharing your
you,
expertise.
Mark.
It's been great.
Thank you, Vonda. Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Thanks to the group.